1 lakh bookings within just 30 minutes. And staying with India, the macroeconomic picture looking good. The latest data from the National Sample Survey (NSS) shows positive signs for the job market in urban India. The unemployment rate for people aged 15 years and above in urban areas declined to 6.7% in the Jan to March period this year, down from 6.8% a year ago. There's also good news for women in the workforce. The unemployment rate among females aged 15 and above decreased to 8.5% in the same period compared to 9.2% in the Jan to March quarter last year. However, the unemployment rate for male in urban areas has risen slightly to 6.1% in the same period compared to 6% a year ago. On the brighter note, the labor force participation rate in urban areas has increased. The rate for people aged 15 and above went up by 50.2% in Jan to March period from 48.5% in the same period in 2023. All this indicates that more people are actively participating in India's workforce. And there's also news coming from India's largest lender, the State Bank of India, which has announced good news for depositors on May 15th. The increased in interest rates on fixed deposits below 2 crore rupees has been hiked. This hike ranges from 25 to 75 basis points, translating to an extra 0.25% to 0.75% rate of interest. The increased rates apply to various FD maturities, including those maturing within 46 days to 179 days, 180 days to 210 days, and 211 days to less than 1 year. For instance, if you invest 1 lakh in an SBI fixed deposit maturing in 180 days under the new rate, you will earn 600 more in interest compared to the previous rate. It's important to note that these revised rates apply only to new fixed deposits or existing ones where renewal is allowed. This decision by the State Bank of India comes after a period of delayed response from banks to the Reserve Bank of India's policy actions. The RBI's Monetary Policy Committee kept the repo rate unchanged at 6.5% in the April 2024 cycle. However, this followed 6 consecutive increases totaling 2.5% or 250 basis points until April 2023. RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das in October 2023 highlighted that banks were not fully reflecting these hikes in their FD rates. There was a delay, but banks have begun raising FD rates to align with the RBI's policy changes. SBI's recent hike is one prime example. And let's look east all the way to Singapore. After 20 years in power, Singapore's Prime Minister Hsien Loong has stepped down, handing over the reins to Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Lawrence Wong. Wong is the 4th Prime Minister of Singapore and only the 2nd leader not from the founding Lee family. He takes office as the country faces major challenges, including rising living costs, immigration issues, as well as economic inequality. Born on December 18, 1972, Wong grew up in a modest family with his father in sales and his mother a primary school teacher. He studied economics at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and earned a master's in public administration from Harvard Kennedy School. Wong entered politics in 2011 with the People's Action Party and has since held key ministerial roles. Wong gained prominence during the pandemic for his calm explanations of restrictions. He became Finance Minister in 2021, Deputy Prime Minister in 2022, and has chaired the central bank since 2023. He's also known for his love of the guitar, sharing videos on social media. And from Asia, let's move to the US. In response to allegations that OpenAI's AI model Sora was trained on YouTube videos without permission, Google CEO Sundar Pichai has pledged action if substantiated. The controversy arises amidst uncertainty regarding Sora's training data, with OpenAI CTO Meera Murati stating it primarily uses publicly available and licensed sources. However, media reports claim OpenAI transcribed over 1 million hours of YouTube content for Sora's training. Pichai's stance follows mounting legal challenges against OpenAI, including a lawsuit from the New York Times alleging copyright infringement and legal action from the Authors Guild for inadequate compensation and recognition of original creators. These lawsuits underscore broader concerns about OpenAI's data sourcing practices, prompting questions about intellectual property rights and data usage in AI development. And in a surprising turn of events, if that's even possible with Elon Musk, well, Elon Musk is reportedly rehiring some of the Tesla employees he laid off from the supercharger team just 2 weeks ago. This comes after an email to staff announcing the job cuts sparked shock and confusion. The news, reported by Bloomberg, indicates that Musk may be backtracking on his initial decision, just like he had done with X, then called Twitter. Among those returning is Max de Zegher, Tesla's former director of charging for North America. De Zegher, according to his LinkedIn profile, has been with Tesla for over a decade, starting in sales and transitioning to lead charging infrastructure efforts across UK, Europe and North America. Musk's initial decision to lay off supercharger team had major repercussions. Investors, partners and major automakers like General Motors, Ford and Mercedes-Benz, who utilize Tesla's charging technology, expressed concern. Aaron Luque, CEO of Envizio Spark, a company that installs Tesla chargers, stated to Business Insider, and I quote, "There's no one remaining from the team that worked with. We haven't received any formal communication from Tesla," unquote, regarding the layoffs. The battle for smartphone supremacy in China is heating up. Huawei is implementing a bold new strategy to take the top spot from Apple. They are revamping their retail strategy aggressively, opening new flagship stores across China. Take a look.
Huawei is rethinking its retail strategy to do battle with Apple. The Chinese tech giant is opening or revamping stores as part of a bid to take top spot in the country's smartphone market. Some of the new outlets, including this one in Shanghai, are directly opposite Apple. The Huawei branches aim to outdo its rival with unusual features, including a gym. 4 such stores have opened just since December, and it marks a big change of strategy for the firm, which used to rely on licensed distributors. Counterpoint research partner Neil Shah says it's a sign the firm is serious about grabbing market share.
I think Huawei has stepped up in terms of where they want to go, and it's very clear with their execution and the choice of design which they have embraced within the store, and all different type of portfolios, experiences they're focusing on rather than just a singular product on a table. But it's more focusing on experience and involving the consumers within the store, right? I think that is a completely novel approach.
Other attractions at the stores include a coffee shop and a huge living space. It all comes as Apple's iPhone sales slide in China. They were down 6.6% over the first quarter. Huawei, by contrast, saw its shipments jump 110% and overtook Apple as the number 2 smartphone seller in China. Local media have hailed the rebound as a triumph over years of US sanctions on the company. Huawei is also seeking to produce its own chips as part of a move to counter the restrictions.
All right, US stocks surged to record high on Wednesday, fueled by optimism about the Federal Reserve's future monetary policy. The Consumer Price Index, or CPI, for April showed a smaller rise than anticipated, leading investors to believe the Fed might cut interest rates later this year. More details in this report.
The benchmark U.S. stock indexes notched record closing highs Wednesday, as a smaller than expected rise in consumer inflation bolstered hopes for interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve. The Dow rose 0.9%, the S&P 500 added 1.2%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq gained 1.4%. Tepid U.S. Consumer Price Index data for April led traders to raise bets that the Fed will cut its policy rate in September and December, though Landsberg Bennett Private Wealth Management Chief Investment Officer Michael Landsberg says he doesn't think prices are stabilizing.
We don't think inflation's coming down. If anything, it's accelerating. If I look at the data that we see, whether it's, from metals to agriculture, things have been going up in services, things are going up. I mean, the stuff that's, interestingly enough, that's really going up, CPI doesn't count anymore. I think coffee's up nearly 80% in the last 9 months. We're not going to talk about the coffee prices anymore.
Other data released on Wednesday showed U.S. retail sales were unexpectedly flat in April, as higher gasoline prices pulled expenditure away from other goods, indicating that consumer spending was losing momentum. Stocks on the move included GameStop, which dropped 19%, though it has more than doubled this week, driven by Roaring Kitty, also known as Keith Gill, a central figure behind the 2021 meme stock frenzy, who posted bullish comments on social media platform X. Fellow meme stock AMC Entertainment lost 20%, but remains 80% higher this week.
All right, those inflation numbers we spoke about, let's get a little deeper into them. And U.S. consumer prices rose less than expected in April, suggesting a return to a downward trend. This data sparked optimism on Wall Street, with investors now more confident in the Federal Reserve's ability to manage inflation. Take a look.
U.S. consumer prices rose less than expected in April, suggesting that inflation resumed the downward trend at the start of the second quarter. And the report from the Labor Department Wednesday lifted Wall Street's expectations for a September interest rate cut. Those expectations were further bolstered by other data on Wednesday, showing retail sales were unexpectedly flat last month, as inflation-weary consumers cut back spending at online retailers and auto dealerships. The Consumer Price Index rose 0.3% last month, after advancing 0.4 in March and February. Higher housing costs and gasoline prices were behind most of the gain. Food prices overall were unchanged. Prices at the supermarket declined 0.2%, with eggs, meat, poultry, and fish cheaper, as were fruits and vegetables. In the 12 months through April, the CPI increased 3.4% after climbing 3.5% in March, while prices excluding volatile food and energy costs climbed 3.6%, which was the smallest year-on-year gain since April 2021. Economists expect inflation pressures to ebb this quarter and prices to gradually move toward the Fed's 2% target as the labor market is cooling. Financial markets saw a roughly 73% probability of a rate cut in September, up from 66% before the data. Stocks rose in morning trading.
China's troubled property market might be getting a government bailout. Bloomberg reported that the country is considering a massive plan where local governments would purchase millions of unsold homes from struggling developers. Take a look at this report.
China is considering a plan for local governments nationwide to buy millions of unsold homes. That's according to Bloomberg on Wednesday, after Communist Party leaders called for efforts to clear mounting housing inventory at a meeting in late April. China's property sector has been in a deep slump for years, hit by a debt crisis among developers. Cash-strapped private developers like Country Garden have halted construction on a large number of new homes that were pre-sold but now cannot be delivered on time. The buyers of these homes, meanwhile, are continuing to pay off their mortgages. Analysts agree there are tens of millions of uncompleted apartments across China. Policy measures since 2022 have failed to turn around the sector, which represents around a fifth of the country's economy, and the slump remains a major drag on consumer spending and confidence. According to the Bloomberg report, local state-owned enterprises using loans provided by state banks would be asked to help purchase unsold homes from distressed developers at steep discounts, many of which would then be converted into affordable housing. Citing people familiar with the matter, the report said that officials in China are currently debating the plan's details and feasibility. China's housing ministry did not respond to Reuters' request for comment.
Staying with China, BYD, the world's leading electric vehicle producer, made a splash in Mexico with the unveiling of the Shark, a new mid-size hybrid electric pickup truck. This marks a major move for BYD as it's the first time it's launched a new product outside of China. Take a look.
BYD unveiled a new mid-size hybrid electric pickup truck in Mexico on Tuesday. It was the first time the world's largest EV maker has launched a new product outside its home country, and it strengthens the Chinese automaker's foothold in the North American market. The reveal came on the same day US President Joe Biden announced new tariffs on a variety of Chinese imports, including EVs. A US trade representative further said the US was weighing tariffs on imports from Mexico, but BYD chief of America's Stella Li didn't think this would have an impact on the car maker.
No, we don't have any plan to go to US. So this Shark is really target for any other place outside the US.
BYD executives said the Shark is only available in Mexico. It also plans to build a plant in the country. Lee said BYD chose Mexico due to its rapid growth in demand for pickup trucks there.
Don't make a difference because when we build a Mexican plant, we only consider it's the Mexico market and also other countries' market, not really consider US.
The plant will have a capacity of 150,000 vehicles per year, and Lee said it will take up to 3 years to finish. BYD's Shark is costlier than most rival products though. It has a starting price of $53,442 for the Shark GL and $57,588 for the premium model.
Europe's biggest travel company, TUI, is looking forward to a sunny summer season, even with travelers paying more. Bookings are on track with 60% of their summer packages already sold out, matching last year's numbers. Here's that report.
TUI sees a bright summer ahead despite higher prices. The German group said 60% of the summer programme has been sold so far, in line with last year's level. And prices had risen by 4% on average. Like other travel firms, Europe's largest tour operator hopes the warmer months will beat pre-pandemic levels. That's despite economic uncertainty, delays in plane deliveries and rising jet fuel prices. TUI sees positive trends continuing in the second half. Its outlook comes after it reported stronger than forecast results in the usually less busy winter period. Its revenue rose by 16% to a record $3.9 billion in the quarter as cruises and hotels performed well. The company lowered its operating loss in the January to March period to $205 million, better than forecast.
All right, on a departure from business, let's move to football. Football fans and collectors prepare to bid. The Golden Ball trophy awarded to the legendary Diego Maradona is hitting the auction block. The prestigious prize recognizes Maradona's brilliance as the best player at the 1986 World Cup, a tournament etched in football history. Take a look.
With this golden ball, we have a sort of pinnacle of what we can have around Maradona's best moment in his career. The game of the century, which had the goal of the century, and the handball in the quarter-final against England were just part of the World Cup. Diego Maradona dazzled throughout the World Cup. That's why this golden ball is so important, because it traces Maradona's rise to prominence throughout the competition.
L'avènement de Maradona pendant tout le long de la compétition.
The enigmatic Mona Lisa continues to spark curiosity, with a geologist proposing a new theory about the painting's location. A scholar with expertise in both geology and the Renaissance believes she has identified the landscape behind Mona Lisa. Her argument hinges on geological a formation, specifically limestone rock structures that closely resemble the background in the painting. Here's that report.
Over 500 years ago, Leonardo da Vinci painted the iconic Mona Lisa. There are many mysteries surrounding one of the world's most famous works of art. Among them, where was the noble woman sitting when da Vinci painted her? Now, geologist and Renaissance specialist Anne Pizzarusso thinks she has pinpointed the location to a small town of Lecco in northern Italy.
When I came to Lecco, I realized he had painted the Mona Lisa here, and I did a lot of research on the rock formations, and that's how this discovery came about.
The scholar says this arched bridge depicted in the painting corresponds to the 14th century Ponte a Zone.
Not have a bridge, but the most important thing is that you have the surrounding landscape. And in the other hypotheses, the geology was just incorrect.
Pizzarusso found that rock formations in Lecco were limestone, which matched what is depicted behind the noble woman.
So if you look here, you see these kind of sawtooth mountains. So when you look at the Mona Lisa, you'll see this part of the Adda River, and you'll see another lake behind it, which are perfectly shown underneath these sawtooth mountains in the Mona Lisa.
Pizzarusso hopes her breakthrough will change the public's understanding of da Vinci.
Every time I go to the Louvre, they just have the painting of the Mona Lisa and an arrow. And it dawned on me how famous this painting is, but on a very personal level, because I have a very close relationship with Leonardo, I feel so good that maybe people will look at him as not only a painter, but as a geologist.
Well, that's all we have on this edition of World Business Report. News continues right here on News 9 Live, so don't go anywhere. Thanks for watching.
The game of power politics has begun. The poll bugle has been sounded. Who will receive the death blow? Who will be checkmated? Still remains to be seen.
ये दिखाता है हर कार्यकर्ता का बुलंद हौसला।
This and more. Streaming on News 9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Has Allu Arjun arrived, or he's just taking off?
If I really want to hit a moonshot, I want the moon.
These are big stories.
It's very unique to Indian cinema.
What would be the relevance of tradition?
I would believe that the first change has to come in the mind.
World premiere on the 18th of May, only on News 9 Live at 9 p.m.